Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS's YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room. So please make sure you read those if you have not already done so. At this time, we'll have our invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies. Being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And so we're going to move to item 2.03. That is the approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve minutes as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have consensus? We do have consensus. Moving to item 2.04, establishing the agenda order. Ms. Frank.
I move that the agenda be amended to add as action item 6.05, consideration of board member proposal for amendments to policy KH, parent involvement on first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Ellis.
Yes, I'm in the interest of collaboration. This knowing a little history, this policy was on our docket for last year and got held over to this year, and so I know a board member put a considerable amount of time into working through the revisions on this policy, and I would like to provide the opportunity to see that through. So I will be supporting this.
Okay, seeing no more lights, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Nay.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Nay.
And Mr. Silkworth?
Nay.
That is 4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Motion fails.
Okay, so we're moving on to item 2.05.
Wait, I think we need
recognition.
we need another motion. I move that the
Oh,
previously
yeah,
written
okay.
agenda be that we move forward with the previously written agenda.
And we have a second.
Second.
Any conversation? No lights, consensus? Okay. So now we're moving on to item 2.05, recognition. So this evening, we'll be recognizing and honoring several individuals who rushed into the aid of a North County student. And having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson.
Good afternoon. President Silkworth, Vice President Frank, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. For the record, I am Monique Jackson, Chief Student and Systemic Officer, and I have the absolute honor of presenting today's board recognition. When I talk about our school system and all of those who are part of it, I frequently refer to it as a family. We are more than teammates, we are a family. Whether you are an AACPS employee, a partner, an agency, a parent, or a student, you are part of our family. And no matter what, family helps family. Nowhere was that better exemplified than at North County High School on August the 30th, the last day of the first week of school, when ninth grader Vanessa Whitty suffered a medical emergency shortly after arriving at school. 2 students, Angel Sunalga Sanchez and Ashton Klein, immediately recognized the severity of the situation and ran to summon help. School nurse Elizabeth Carey one of the amazing nurses provided to us by our County Department of Health, and SROs Corporal Matthew DeRay and Corporal Craig Madonna, who were part of our awesome county police department, quickly arrived on scene. They performed CPR, and Vanessa, eventually needing to use an AED, they assisted her until paramedics arrived. It was a frantic scene, but those professionals were nothing short of superb. I'm thrilled to tell you that Vanessa is not just back in school and doing well, but she and her family are here with us today. We are immensely thankful for that, and for those we honor today who made it happen. Also with us today to join in honoring these heroes are County Chief of Police Amal Awid, County Health Officer Tony Gedden, and Jenny Probstall, the Chief of Staff for County Executive Stuart Pittman. I ask them to join Mr. Silkworth, Dr. Bedell, North County High School Principal Sarah Thomas, and Vanessa up front, along with those that we honor today in this very special recognition. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, please. Thank you. On this side of Ms. Thomas.
On this side?
Yes, sir. And we're going to invite our honorees to come forward. Dr. Bedell, do you want to read the first name, or do you want me to?
I'm gonna let you run.
Okay. Angel Sanchez. Yes, in the center, absolutely. Ashton Klein. Elizabeth Carey. Corporal Matthew DeRue. And Corporal Craig Madonna.
The honorees stay here, and then can we have the adults go on top, please, with the board members, so we can get a nice group photo.
Oh, the adults go up top.
That way you.
Guys, open. No, just like this.
Closer?
Yep. You only get a little bit this way, please. Ms. Corkadell, I cannot see your head. Can you all see everybody? Okay.
Can I get everybody to look right here for me, please? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all so much.
Don't want that smoke. Don't want that smoke. I know.
Okay. Okay, we're going to be moving on to item 2.06, our Educator of the Month.
Good morning. Today, the Board of Education is honored to recognize a key member of the music leadership team. She can see the big picture of any scenario or topic while at the same time understanding the nuance and complexities of the small details, a combination of skills not often seen to the degree of mastery that she possesses. Ms. Sarah Del Signore, music chorus teacher from Northeast High School. Ms. Del Signore has developed a strong, and I apologize if the name is not correct. How do you say your name? Del Signore, thank you. Has developed a strong and inclusive choral program at Northeast High School and consistently demonstrates excellence even in the face of challenges. She is quick to sign on for additional opportunities for her students, which recently included participating in a collaborative concert opportunity with the Anne Arundel County Community College Choral Program. In addition, her annual work to put on high-quality musical theater productions taps into the great arts community at Northeast and highlights her ability to manage a large number of logistical moving parts while motivating and instructing students in the various aspects of putting on production. She has coordinated and facilitated opportunities for her students to experience life outside the confines of Anne Arundel County by taking them to New York City and experiencing a Broadway show and a taste of what it's like to move and exit within the unique structure of a major U.S. city. It's very brave. Sarah, your interpersonal skills are, to put it plainly, stellar. You are able to work productively with anyone on just about anything. You are reliable and kind in sharing your knowledge, while at the same time not holding back any tough realities that need to be shared to make progress. There isn't an individual who is not better for having worked side by side with you. So for all of those reasons and many more, the Board of Education is honored to recognize you as the Educator of the Month for October 2024. Congratulations. And could you please come forward to accept? New York City. How many kids go with you to New York City when you did?
About 60.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
This is your plaque. And here is your certificate that we'll give you as well. And I'm going to give you, they wrote some really fabulous
Nice
things
things about me. That's
They
good.
did.
Thank you.
How did they get you here today?
I thought I was talking about unified music and leadership as a portion of it, and I was super excited to come talk about it. Okay, so maybe another time?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're moving on to item 2.07, Employee of the Month.
Good morning, everyone. The Board of Education is thrilled to present the Employee of the Month to Ms. Geraldine Bailey. The role of a receptionist in a large school system requires a combination of communication, organizational, technical, and interpersonal skills. Our October 2024 Employee of the Month possesses all of these skills and much more. making her an invaluable member of the AACPS family. Ms. Jerry Bailey is an exceptional employee who consistently exhibits a deep understanding of her role. She is proficient in handling the central office switchboard and welcome center and delivers high-quality work with diligence and a commitment to exceeding expectations. She is patient and calm when dealing with difficult callers, visitors, or other challenging situations. She excels in communication and resourcefulness, which enable her to independently resolve complex situations without supervisory guidance. She multitasks, shifting from phone reception to being an in-person welcoming guide with ease. Ms. Bailey is highly respected by the staff of AACPS for her work ethic, dedication, and unwavering commitment to excellence. Her colleagues often seek her guidance and mentorship, recognizing her wealth of knowledge and professionalism. Her contributions go beyond the scope of her responsibilities, and the respect she commands is a testament to her exceptional character and her contributions to the organization. Ms. Bailey, the Board of Education thanks you for your almost 20 years commitment to providing excellent service to the many stakeholders which you encounter. We are honored to award you as the October 2024 Employee of the Month. Congratulations. Would you please come forward to accept your award?
Thank you. And I thought I'd do everything. Yes. Do you have anyone here? Yes. My grandson, Brandon. Oh, so we're coming at it. All right. This is my niece. And my brother's right here. Oh. He sings for the XPDs and Carter's Beach, and he's well known. Yeah. So he made it here, and he's a veteran.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. But I get to share your Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Before we begin, so Sarah Del Senor, where's Sarah? So Sarah, who's here with you today?
My coordinator and then, the big boss
All right.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. So we're going to be moving on to item 2.08, our volunteer of the month.
Yes, before I get started, I just wanted to say Shana Tova to all who celebrate, and may there be peace worldwide. Thanks. Coretta Scott King told us, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. If we measured the compassionate actions of this month's Volunteer of the Month, we would undoubtedly understand the greatness of our community at Belvedere Elementary School. It is an immense honor to recognize Heather Ward as our October 24 Volunteer of the Month, 2024 Volunteer of the Month. Mrs. Ward has been a cornerstone of our community since her eldest daughter started kindergarten. Over the years, she has become synonymous with volunteerism and enthusiasm, consistently going above and beyond to support our school, our teachers, and our students, all while balancing a full-time job. From the outset, Mrs. Ward has shown remarkable willingness to dive into any project that comes her way, whether it's organizing class parties, setting up guest readers for our second graders, or spearheading a lunchroom reward program to reinforce our school matrix. She tackles each task with unparalleled energy and creativity. She demonstrated that creativity and community building last school year with themed treats to celebrate Unity Day, as well as leading our Green Day of Service project. Her involvement doesn't stop there. Mrs. Ward has a unique talent for rallying other parents to get involved, ensuring that everyone feels included and valued. Her ability to inspire and encourage others to volunteer throughout the year is truly commendable. She has an uncanny ability to unite us all, demonstrating how rewarding it can be to contribute to our school community. One of Mrs. Ward's most admirable qualities is her dedication to appreciating and honoring our teachers. She is the chair of our Teacher Appreciation Committee, and her innovative ideas and heartfelt gestures have made a profound impact on our school. From themed appreciation weeks to personalized gifts, Mrs. Ward's efforts ensure that each teacher feels recognized and cherished. Her knack for organizing surprise treats and community contributions not only brightens our teachers' day, but fosters a culture of gratitude with our school. Mrs. Ward, Belvedere Elementary, and the entire Anne Arundel County Public Schools community is blessed to have such a dedicated volunteer, and we thank you for your service. Would you please come forward? It's with great appreciation that I would like to present the Volunteer of the Month bell and certificate to you as a symbol of our appreciation. So this bell is for you. I didn't use it in good health. What lie did they tell you to get you down here?
I was coming to talk about innovative teacher appreciation.
Nice.
That would be because you couldn't volunteer on her young.
Oh, I missed the field trip today.
There will be others.
Yes.
Who do you have with you today?
My husband, my daughter, one of our fantastic preschool teachers, and our principal.
Fantastic. So we're going to take a picture here, and then we're going to go out in the lobby and do other pictures. All right, here you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County, I would like to extend our gratitude to the Anne Arundel Retired School Personnel Association's Selection Committee for selecting the Educator and Employee of the Month, as well as the Office of School and Family Partnerships for selecting the Volunteer of the Month. We recognize the immense effort and dedication that goes into reviewing the numerous nominations and selecting the honorees. Your commitment to honoring those who have made significant contributions to our schools is truly commendable. Thank you for your hard work and for ensuring that these deserving individuals are celebrated. So at this time, we're going to take a brief break for some photos. Okay, we are now going to move on to public comments on agenda items. I don't believe we have any public comments this evening, either on agenda or non-agenda. So we'll move on to our report section, item 4.01, Policy Committee Report. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. The Policy Committee met on October 1st, and we reviewed 4 policies. Policy BBE, Board Committees, simply adding the new Emergency Management Committee to the existing policy. Policy EAG, School Bus Driver Qualifications. There had to be some changes there because we have new methods of transporting kids now. Policy KH, Parent, Family, Community Involvement. That policy I mentioned in our last meeting came back to the Policy Committee for review and discussion. And then a new policy, Special Education Bill of Rights, was introduced and reviewed by the committee. There was some discussion, and seemingly this proposed policy had a lot of overlap with our existing special education policy. So it was recommended that it go back to the member who developed the policy with staff to see if maybe there could be some language added to the existing policy. The first 3 policies I just mentioned were voted out of the policy committee and will come before the board, presumably at our October 16th meeting. And that is, and we reviewed policy EAG, School Bus Driver Qualifications, to, again, align the language with our current transportation. Thank you.
Ms. Frank.
Yes, thank you. I just had a couple of concerns about some of the policy that's been going through policy committee, specifically on the length of time that it's taking for some of these policies to get out of committee. I know of the policy that has been kind of held up in committee, was requested last August. Once that hits third reader, that will in effect be approximately a year and a half from request to a vote, which I think is a detriment to the process. So I would like to examine a way that we can try to truncate the policy committee's ability to either meet or be able to get through policy. I know that there was a meeting requested, and some members were unable to participate with that. But just to kind of go through the time frame here, I requested a policy in August of 2023. Over the winter, Ms. Wilson pulled me aside to understand the policy and started to gather information from staff. We constructed it. I forwarded that policy to Mr. Burns to ensure there were no legal impediments. I shared the vetted draft policy with 2 other members at different times who had shown interest in the policy to see if there was additional input. I crafted a policy and vetted this through both staff and Mr. Burns and had a final product at the end of the spring, summer. The policy was not added to the committee meeting agenda until August. The committee viewed the policy and did not move it forward. Edits were made, and I have been given the draft by the current staff. I requested the policy be added to the agenda on 9/6/24 with a second per the handbook. On 9/7, the board president responded that the policy committee had this item on the upcoming agenda, so there is no need to add it to our meeting agenda. On 9/10, I responded and requested it again that it be added to our 9/18 agenda. On 9/13, the board president called and explained that there were 2 members obstructing the policy, and so it was inappropriate to work around them. In summary, board president stated that the policy on policy indicated that the timeline could be potentially truncated, but that he would not circumvent the policy committee, to which I have had a legal explanation saying that they were not gatekeepers. And the policy committee is supposed to be moving policy through, not holding policy up. Policy committee chair reported to me that she had asked the committee to have an additional meeting in the week of September, but 2 members would not commit. On 9/27, I asked again that this item be added to the agenda. On 9/30, I asked for a placeholder be added to the agenda and was told that the president would call Mr. Mosier to add it. On 10/1, the president, administration, and I had an agenda review meeting. It was discussed that the placeholder would be added to the agenda. I emailed Mr. Burns and confirmed that this was acceptable per OMA, and the president asked me to reach out to the members to let them know that I may have some changes to the agenda based on the outcome of the committee. Subsequent to that, I believe it was stated in committee that they were trying to move this to the October 16th agenda, which has never been done in committee. So I think that our committee has had some significant challenges in moving policy through committee, and I'm requesting that that either be overviewed, or I would like to maybe offer my services on policy committee if we can't get things through. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frank. Okay, we're going to be moving on to the president's report. This is item 4.02. And on September the 25th, 2024, Ms. Corkadell, Dr. Tobin, and Ms. Schalheim and I had the privilege to attend another one of our innovative scheduling meetings. And we would like to thank Ms. Grace Wilson for, once again, a great job conducting that meeting. We thought it was very profitable. On Saturday, the 28th of September, I had the privilege to attend and also announce the annual Arundel Wildcat Spectacular. It's a marching band competition held at Arundel, and I believe there were bands from all over the state. Arundel was there, Old Mill was there, Chesapeake was there, and I think maybe Northeast, I'm not sure, but it was an absolutely fantastic competition, and the quality of the music coming from all of these bands is absolutely amazing. The talent is just off the charts. So, congratulations to Arundel and the State Marching Band for that event. Yesterday, Dr. Bedell and I, along with Clayton Culp, we had the honor to traveled to Blair High School in Montgomery County We were invited to witness a girls flag football competition. I have to tell you, it was it was an absolutely amazing game. Dr. Burdett, I think, will speak to this. It was exciting. The quality of the talent was amazing. There were great plays by both teams. It just so happened that Blair had not won a game until yesterday, and they came away, I think it was 16-6. And there were great pass plays, great running plays. The rules are different. And but I'll let Dr. Bedell talk about that in his report. So at this time, I'm going to recognize Ms. Corkadell. Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Silkworth. I asked President Silkworth to take a moment of the President's update time because October is a very important month to me and I think many others in our district. October is National Bullying Awareness Month, a timely reminder for organizations to take action at the local level to foster safe and supportive environments. Workplace bullying, whether through hostile comments, discriminatory actions, implicit bias statements, or other forms of intimidation and suppression, should never be tolerated. And in the education arena environment and in our districts, we celebrate the tandem of that, not just for our folks in the workplace, but also in our classrooms, because coinciding with that is World Bullying Prevention Month. And on the first day of October and throughout the entire month, all across the planet, students, schools, and communities go blue together against bullying. Wearing your blue this month is definitely something to do. And of course, being a little extra mindful as to what bullying is and what you can do to stop it out is most appreciated. And I wanted just to touch, if I may, what gave me the idea of mentioning this during the meeting, although, October has always been a unified month for us, is I was hearing an interview at two media outlets about a new book release designed for K through 3 to help them learn how they can stop bullying from happening to them and also be an agent of change for others. And it's called Pink Shoes by Miss Mary Young. And I don't normally call out a book, very, very, very rare. But after hearing the interview about a retired special education educator, she educated K through 21, the age of 21. And she said, the impact of bullying, times it by 10 for someone who receives specialized instruction, and times that by 50 for those who have communication impediments. And so fast forward, she's now retired and she's a grandmother. And when her son came home, extremely bullied, feeling horrible, other forms of intimidation, she said, maybe I can't change the whole world, but maybe I can take action to influence and encourage and inspire others to understand how detrimental bullying is and the consequences and impacts it has. And so I have asked our staff to allow me some opportunity this month to do some reading with the kids at the elementary level at some folks in my district. And in conclusion, I always like to give some homework for people who are listening because, we all need to improve on this, each and every single one of us. And as I look around on the dais, us as a board needs to take that dignified approach as we are speaking to one another and as we are deliberating. And we are the top models sitting next to the superintendent. And if we can't get it right, it's really hard for us to assess how others are doing it not so well. And during our NSBA conference this spring, the gentleman who was one of the co-founders of Special Olympics had worked with some others to create what's called the Dignity Index. And I know that Dr. Bedell uses this with his staff. And this is something, you know, I'd love to see just put right on the wall here for everybody, not just the board. So many good reminders that we always need to take care of. And there's some examples of things that people say that are contemptful and contentious compared to how to do that with dignity. And so I'll conclude on the two examples. If you're at number one, you would say something like, they're not even human. It's our moral duty to destroy them before they destroy us. Almost sounds similar to some things you hear in the media nowadays. And then at the top, instead of saying that, try this. Each one of us is born with inherent worth, so we treat everyone with dignity, no matter what. The day of the martyr is gone, the day of the moral high ground, because we'll naturally find that together when we show dignity. So I hope that people will build up rather than tear down, be curious, not furious, listen to hear, not to respond, challenge ideas, but don't attack people for what they are, who they are affiliated with, and who they have become. Only they know their journey. And it's up to us to better understand it so we can grow as people. Please join me in stomping out bullying. We can't get rid of it 100%. Why? Because we're all human beings. And so it starts with forgiving ourselves so that we can forgive others when they transgress. And that is part of treating each and every person with dignity. And I know, President Silkworth, that you shared wearing blue with me and the superintendent here, and I see Ms. Schalheim in our blue and some variations, of course. It wasn't a memo sent out, but I know you may have a thing or two to say, having spent a year or two in our classrooms, just a year or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Corcadell. Well, this is something that really is kind of near and dear to my heart. I did spend a few years in the classroom, and I was a bully blocker. And I think our great teachers and staff are bully blockers. Everybody should be a bully blocker. And as an announcer, I often made a statement at North County High School that if you are bullying someone, please stop. If you are being bullied by someone, seek out one of our bully blockers, because everyone has the right to be happy and no one has the right to take that happiness away. And it is absolutely true. Everyone has the right and should be treated with dignity. So thank you, Ms. Corcadell. Okay, that does conclude the president's report. We'll move on to items 4.03, superintendent's report. Dr. Bedell.
Well stated, Ms. Corcadell. I remember us listening to that keynote presentation at NSBA. So I think it should remind everybody that when we do go to these conferences, we are going to learn and we're going to bring material back. And I remember going through that process, and immediately that was the next focus that I had at our principals meeting. So thank you for, reminding the community of the importance of how we can operate and be cordial, still push our issues, but do it in a way where we're not tearing each other down. So I really appreciate that. Mr. President, I wanted to just piggyback on a couple of things that you said about our visit yesterday out in Montgomery County. I had been speaking to our athletic director about the possibility of expansion of a different sport for our female students. And as you all know, flag football is something that is growing extremely fast in this country. It is going to be an Olympic sport in 2028. And there are universities that are now starting to build programs. So we are talking about potential future scholarships, opportunities. What we saw yesterday was that Blair High School, which is the largest high school in the state, they have about 3,400 students. It actually had 30 female athletes on that team, 30. So they were running them in every time a changeover happened. It was like 7 new female students were running out to play, and everybody got playing time. And I think the coach is not necessarily concerned about winning at this point, more so than access and exposure. All of those students, with the exception of one, from what I was told, are students who weren't participating in anything, so they didn't take away from fall sports. But what it did was it gave another avenue of opportunities for students to have a connection socially and emotionally through athletics. The Ravens are looking to fully fund the initial startups for about 80 teams. Also in this state, you need at least 80 teams in order for it to become a state sanctioned sport where you can have state competition. So Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, I've also heard that Howard may be having some interest with the school districts that are already participating. Frederick County, Baltimore City, Montgomery County, I believe Charles County is the other school district. So there's opportunity here to give our students another experience. And we also know that this is already a part of the approved middle school plan. So middle school flag football was already a part of it in Anne Arundel County. So now potentially having an opportunity to figure out how to do this at the high school level creates that continuum. So thank you for bringing that up, because I actually didn't have that in my report today, but it was wonderful. I want to start out by recognizing that we are in the midst of Hispanic Heritage Month, a time to celebrate the rich cultures of students and their families throughout our school district and our county. I have had the opportunity to see many of the wonderful things going on in our schools with respect to Hispanic Heritage Month. Most recently, I attended the Hispanic Health Festival this past Saturday at Annapolis High School. One of the things that really moved me was seeing the words belong, grow, succeed come to life through events like these in our schools. So we will continue to make sure that we are recognizing Hispanic Heritage Month in the things that we're doing across the county in our schools. I also want to thank everyone who came out to our Partners in Progress meetings, moving AACPS forward. These events occurred over the last several weeks. Very taxing, put a lot of stress on staff. I want to say the last 2 weeks, none of us really made it home prior to 7:30, 8 o'clock. And for some people, depending on where you're driving to, maybe 9. But it was worth it. We held our last session on Monday night at Wally H. Bates Middle School. Attendance was not as large as our previous events, but those who did attend had some great ideas and thoughts, and our team was able to address many issues. I look forward to doing this again in some form or fashion in the future, probably at some point during the second semester, to get to different schools and to continue to engage our community with what's happening in the school district. Our efforts to help every student belong, grow, and succeed are expanding this year when it comes to the administration of the pre-SAT. In addition to administering the pre-SAT free for all 11th graders on October 9th, we are offering for the first time the pre-SAT 8-9 to all 9th graders on the same day. There's a reason for this. As I've stated before, we want our students to get as much exposure as possible to the rigors of what the SAT will present to them. It also allows for the school district to help our students build stamina, understanding that this is a timed assessment. But there's some promising data that has already come out of us administering to all of our 10th graders last year. And that is the ability to be able to identify AP potential. So it allows for us to target specifically where students would have the most success in taking advanced placement courses. And as you've all seen with our data, the growth that we've had, but not only the growth, but the success with the number of students who are scoring a 3, 4, or 5, this will only help improve that. And then finally, something that is very important to me as a former high school principal, National Merit Scholars. There's a lot of, I think, missed opportunities in our county because we haven't been targeted in trying to help identify who those potential National Merit Scholars could be, because we weren't data rich, having the data at a much earlier phase to then be much more prescriptive. We know that we moved from having only 1 last year to 5 this year, but in a county this large, We should have more. And we think that this administration of starting this a lot earlier will put us on that track to get more kids that opportunity to earn significant scholarship money. It is game-changing money when you are a National Merit Scholar, and I think we have a responsibility. There are, of course, this will be altered schedules that will be in effect for high school students only. Families have been provided with this information, and as you can see on the screen here, it can be found online at www.aacps.org/testing. Congratulations to Marina Thompson of Southern Middle School for being named the Maryland Dance Association's Dance Educator of the Year. And I think for many, yes, that absolutely. Because I think it's important that I just remind everybody that she was also our Teacher of the Month when we were making some personnel changes, and there was some, to me, in my opinion, some negative comments made towards her about why we were recognizing her. And I want people to understand, this, when you get recognized as Educator of the Year for the state, that says a lot. It tells you that this is a very talented educator who's at the top of her game. And so we are extremely proud to announce that. In addition to the Triple E academic specialist, Lacey Shepard, for earning the Outstanding Leader in Dance Education Award from the exact same group. These educators are two of the many who work so hard to make the dance program in our school district the best in Maryland. I want to take a moment to highlight our ongoing partnership with the Anne Arundel County Department of Health. You already saw the value of that partnership in this morning's recognition, but here's another way we are working together to benefit students. Later this month, Department of Health staff will begin administering flu vaccinations to students in our Title I and community schools, as well as our 3 developmental centers. This is an effort that dates back many years, and it keeps our students healthy and in school where they can learn. Thank you to everyone at the Department of Health and those that are on our team for continuing to make this happen year after year. Speaking of healthy students, this is a good time to remind everyone of our COVID protocols. We are continuing to follow guidance from health officials, which is that anyone diagnosed with COVID must be out of school or work until they are fever-free for 24 hours without the aid of any medication. That's the same guidelines for the flu and other illnesses. There is no longer a quarantine or isolation period for those with COVID. On the next slide, as I regularly will present to you all, here is the updates that we have on our vacancies. And again, we're making tremendous progress still with bringing more educators into the county. As you can see, we're down to 52 teacher vacancies. And I'll talk a little bit about bus drivers and alternative vehicle drivers in a few minutes, along with teachers. But custodians, food service workers, we've already discussed this in executive close, some ideals that we have around what we can do to ultimately reduce the vacancies there. And again, crossing guards, look, I know the police chief was just here, but I do need to have further conversation, because my understanding that there were people in training. So that number, I'm not understanding why it's continuing to go up, and that's something that I will work to try to get an update on. But what I also want you all to know, where we have 0 vacancies, we are going to make some changes at the next report, because we have other areas in the county where we have vacancies. And I believe that it needs to be posted here so people know where we need help. So some of these where we have 0, we're going to pull off, and we're going to put, for example, teacher assistants. We know that's an area where we need some support. So we want to put those vacancies up here so that we can begin to continue to market and try to recruit people to help assist in our classrooms. I've also talked a lot about how our school district is becoming more desirable. And I've referenced several surveys to you all over the past several months that have come out. Here's some data to back that up. Through September 19th, we were up by more than 1,000 students over last year. Most of that increase is at the high school level. Enrollment figures, of course, will not be finalized and verified for another month, and the number of students for whom we receive a per pupil allocation doesn't include all of those represented here. But more and more families are believing in the work that we're doing, and I think it's important that we also show that even with this growth, more and more of our students are coming to school more often. Take a look at this data through the 4th week of school. It tells us that, again, anytime you can have more than 1/10, 2/10, or 3/10 of growth in attendance, this is significant. It is significant to see these types of numbers. And I just have to be honest with everybody. I've never seen these kind of numbers in my career in the districts I've worked in. So it says a lot about what's happening, and ultimately, hopefully, students feeling like they are in a much more joyful learning environment. But with this, as you saw with the 1,000 additional students unofficially, it brings some challenges to our school district. So it's a good problem, but nevertheless, it creates problems and it creates stress on the system. One of them being class sizes, because in some cases, we just don't have the staffing at this rate to handle the amount of growth. And we also understand, I think the community needs to understand this, funding lags by a year with regard to enrollment. So, last year we did not hit our projections. And so we had to then submit a projection update according to what the numbers look like last year. Next year, we will feel this in a much more positive way from a funding standpoint. But that also meant that we were not able to go out and request a significant amount of FTEs. And again, it doesn't make sense to request a bunch of FTEs if you cannot fill the ones that you currently have. And I've taken that position from day one. But what we've been able to show people is we are filling them. So even with transportation, we've been at 0 for a while. We know that we did not get all of our transportation requests last year. And so this will be an area where we have to be able to handle the additional enrollment. This will be a focus that we have to have on our budget, in addition to the staffing areas where we are properly staffed and there are opportunities to hire people. So again, I think all of this will allow for us to advocate a little bit differently, but also to have the bandwidth to handle the growth. So finally, I want to talk about safety in our schools, because I think it's important that we keep everyone as up to date as we can on what we are doing. I need for everyone to know that this is a subject that is discussed every day in our school district with the members of our team. We are continuing to explore, and I want to emphasize the word continue, because this is not a new discussion for us. Ways to prudently enhance safety measures in our buildings and at our events. I also need everyone to know that not everything we are doing is going to be visible. And I'm not going to talk about the details of every measure, because that ultimately undermines the nature of safety measures that we want to be able to put into place. What I will say is that we are innovating and taking advantage of technology at places like high school football games and even in these board meetings. We are also continuing to build our teams around threat assessments and the steps that can be taken as a result of those assessments. In fact, we have staff members now attending a national conference built around school safety and threat assessments. We will also make sure that we bring to you some costs of what it would take to ultimately equip our buildings with new technology. We are working with some of the neighboring school districts to pull some data around contracts, cost, and I think it's important that this community understands what it would take to, even if there is an appetite from this community to look at new technology, what it would take in terms of an investment. But I do want people to fully understand that this will be something that we will continue to talk about. It will not drop off as things fade away from recent events, because it's something that I've been talking about since I've arrived. Safety above all else is something that we take seriously, and it's something that I know, even as we were building the strategic plan, it emerged as one of the top priorities that we need to be in a safe learning, present a safe learning environment for our students. Mr. President, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. And so we're going to be moving on to our consent items, award of contracts, items 5.01, 5.05. Do I hear a motion to bundle?
Motion to bundle.
I hear a motion and a second. We have
Second.
consensus? We do. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contracts under consent items numbered 5.01 through 5.05.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Frank? Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
And Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item 6.01, administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell.
We have no administrative personnel appointments.
Okay, item 6.02, personnel.
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I see no lights, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we're moving to item 6.03, the fiscal year 2025 first quarter supplemental and transfer request.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends approval of the first quarter operating budget supplemental and fund transfer for FY 2025. Our Chief Finance Officer, Mr. Stansky, will present.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, Mr. Stansky.
Yeah, just good afternoon, President Selkirk, Dr. Bedell, members of the board. For the record, Matt Stansky, Chief Financial Officer, presenting you today with a first quarter supplemental. We typically do second and fourth quarter, but have some emerging projects coming that require funding. So on Monday, we did submit per state law our 9/30 financials for fiscal year 24. We ended the year with just a little bit over $38 million in fund balance in our general fund, which is about a $2 million increase from last year. We'll go more into depths about that in our October 16th meeting. But so with that, and it's about, I would say 2.5% of general fund revenue. So within the newly established Board of Education policy. With that, we are requesting the use of $15.6 million of this for one-time items that were not either funded in our operating budget request or were not included because of their one-time nature. And so I'll walk through those right now. So the largest chunk, about 50% of this, is for our enterprise resource planning software upgrade, our ERP upgrade. This is for our finance, HR, payroll, and budgeting systems. We presented that to the board back in June, that contract. And so we need $8.6 million for implementations there. Second is, no surprise probably here, $2 million for Chromebook repairs. So we are burning through existing available resources for repairing our Chromebooks. And so to get those back out into the hands of schools and students, we are requesting $2 million to continue to have enough resources to make those necessary repairs. Number three is we started a program back in COVID, during COVID, using ESSER funds to do some additional preventative maintenance on our HVAC equipment. The data has shown that it's been extremely successful. We've had fewer breakdowns of that equipment. That was not funded in our operating budget, so we are asking for $2 million to continue that program at least for one more year until we can find permanent funding sources to do that. As the board is well aware, we're starting our middle school athletic program, and so we are looking for, there was some funding to start up the ongoing costs, salaries, and benefits, but we do need some equipment and supplies to get that up and running in the spring, and so we're looking for $1 million for middle school athletics. At the next board meeting, we'll be presenting you a contract for a new learning management system. And so we will need some startup funding to get that up and running for next school year. So we're asking for $630,000 for that initiative. Number 6 on the list, unfortunately, our current vendor for our transportation routing software is getting out of the business. They no longer are interested in providing. Yeah, so just as we are finally getting to use that software for the last couple years, and they are now not interested anymore in continuing that business. So we are obviously going through the RFP process to get a new software system for routing for next school year. So as you can imagine, we want to procure this and get it up and running before the end of this school year. So we have time to test it out as we develop routes for the summer. So we'll need $500,000 for that. Next is a blueprint mandate. This is unspent career counseling funds of $490,000 that we will need to reappropriate to that program. And so we will asking to do that today. Number 8 on the list is we are moving you just approved the contract to move our student information system to the cloud. That will require some one-time funding to make that happen at $256,000. Number 9, I think this will be a good news for folks. We're requesting funding of $132,000 for materials and transportation funding for robotics teams at middle and high school. So that is good news there. And then last is a transfer to the food service fund of $75,000. Recent federal audit indicated that we are no longer allowed to provide food for school programs that are not in school buildings. So think of like home hospital students who are not in the buildings, or some of our alternative education option programs with the Boys and Girls Club. We have been providing meals for those programs. Unfortunately, because those programs don't have a federal school ID number, they are no longer eligible to be provided meals through federal funding. So we are requesting a transfer of general funds of $75,000 to the food service fund to continue to offer meals for those students in those programs. And that is the crux of the request, $15.6 million, and respectfully request this board's approval, and happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Ms. Shalhan.
Yes, I'm delighted by most of this list. I want to speak about number 6, the transportation routing software. So we entered into a contract in good faith with these folks at probably significant expense, because we were under the illusion that they were a going concern. And now they're just saying deuces, see ya, and walking away. Do we have any recourse for that? Because $500,000, although a minuscule part of a $1.65 billion operating budget, on the principle, I'm angry about this.
Point of order, please. I think contractual discussions as it relates to our vendors is probably better served. Not having OMA directly in front of me, I would suspect that maybe with procurement and discussions about our vendors and concerns, maybe a separate conversation. I don't know what the superintendent and president think, but I'm getting very uncomfortable here.
Well, we can get Darren's opinion about that. So why don't
my
we
point
call
of
for
order
that?
is to the
Folks,
president.
Folks. Mr. Burns? Mr. Burns?
The irony.
Mr. Burns, how are you? Good. Did you resolve the point of order, Mr. Silver?
No, not at the moment. So there's a question brought up by Ms. Corkadell about a discussion about a contractor. So Ms. Corkadell, you want to bring up your point again?
My point of order is as it references commentary and opinions about decisions that are ongoing and have been presented to us that is in procurement. And number 2 is we as a practice as a board do not dispose of concerns of our vendors and their decisions in the public typically. And so I requested a point of order to cease the further communications from my colleague until such time that we can determine if it is appropriate to continue or not.
For the record, Darren Burns, Board Attorney. I don't know if in the sense of parliamentary procedure, it's a point of order, because I don't know if it's a Robert's Rules issue. I think if the question, though, before the board, however you get there, is whether you should discuss in the public setting concerns about a vendor, including whether or not a vendor's actions are adhere to a contract or don't. I think that's best to be discussed in closed session in a legal review. I think you had a report from Mr. Sansky that for whatever reason, you were not going to have that vendor in the future, and that presents a financial issue. I think if you wish as a board and the superintendent to delve into what's next, I imagine the superintendent will have staff council take a look at what's involved, and then we'll all be involved in that process. But however you get there, I would recommend that you not go too far down the path of discussing contract remedies or concerns in the public setting.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Okay.
I have more. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. So, just gathering my train of thought. I look forward to hearing more about the number 5 learning management system implementation, because we all know that like we've had swings and roundabouts. We'll just leave it there with learning management systems just in general. So I do look forward to hearing more about that. And you said that that would come before us on October 16th?
Correct.
Excellent. And lastly, number 9. So 6 years ago at like 3 a.m, I had an amendment to our operating budget to give more funding to robotics teams, to finally see that them for the great benefits that they bring to our students. And so when I did see this list in advance of this meeting, I was delighted by that item. And so I am really grateful to hear that. And hopefully we can find a space in our operating budget moving forward for this to be an ongoing effort in our road towards equity for all extracurricular activities. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Frank.
Yes, thank you. I definitely want to echo the point about robotics. I was very excited to see that. I cannot recall some of our previous quarter transfers, but this seems to be a very robust list. Am I correct in that? I feel like this is just in the number of requests as well as the total bill. Can you kind of explain, and you did go through each point, can you kind of explain why all of this is hitting kind of at once?
Sure. So I would say, so second quarter transfers are usually smaller. Yes. Fourth quarter transfers are usually a bit larger, but I would say well put. I think it's hitting us because of a confluence of unexpected things that we've talked about and expected, and wanting to be able to fund these items without having to impact our general budget requests that are almost always focused on the classroom, right? So I look at the ERP software, our finance HR implementation software as a great example. It is a backbone system that is essential to the functioning of the business. And that upgrade is, as you can see, very costly. And so it really, using fund balance in this way is an opportunity for us to make this essential upgrade at this time without having to go to county government and ask for precious resources that are desperately needed in our school buildings to fund back-end operations that are also essential to the functioning of this organization, but may not be as attractive to funders as let's say getting teachers in classrooms. And so because of that, and I think again, because of the push of the superintendent and this board around modernizing this organization, we're taking this as an opportunity to do that.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. It does seem it does seem like just a lot is hitting at once. I didn't know if there was a sort of I was not sure what I was expecting, but I was wondering if there was a particular like event that, post-COVID ESSER blowback or something along those lines. But it doesn't seem that that's the case. It seems like this is it just hit.
I think
and
so.
it was-
So
yeah.
some of it, I think that's a great point, Ms. Frank. Some of this
Okay.
is the recommendations of the Gibson audit came out right when COVID.
Got it. Okay.
Right?
So it's more.
And so we've
Got it.
been delayed. And so now that we are
Got it.
past that era, we're now back to let's get this
Okay.
place modernized and moving forward.
Fair enough. Okay. My next question is the federal school ID number to continue the meals. I had great concern about that, that our federal partners are not recognizing that, especially considering how robust the funding was to get school students food during COVID and providing, full meals. So my question to you, Mr. Stansky, is when a student goes to home and hospital, I remember years ago, my sister went on home and hospital care, and she maintained the same course study and overview from the school that she was originally in. Has it changed, or why would they not recognize her home school that she eventually went back to?
Right. So I don't, this is funny because this came as a surprise to all of us. I don't know that anything's changed. It is really, I think, more of an interpretation. So we had your interpretation forever, which was this individual or this student is still enrolled in the school, right? And you can do the same with our Boys and Girls Club partnership, right? The student is still enrolled in the home school. Therefore, we always assumed eligibility for federally subsidized meals was there. And this, I don't know if it's a new interpretation, new audit team at Department of Agriculture or what, but it was more location driven. Like the student has to be at the location. And so because we have a few programs where students are, even though enrolled in the building, but not at the location, we are the finding came down as you are no longer allowed to use federal funding to support meals for these students.
I feel like there is more to this saga, and that we should probably go down a few rabbit holes to see if there's anything else at the end of it.
Ms. Frank, I'll jump in and add, because I'm sure it's something the staff's looking at.
I would imagine they are.
There's an appeal for everyone and everything for an appeal, right? I think the fact that that's a nod to the attorneys out there that are running the show. But I think it's worth researching whether or not the fact that regulators at any particular level cannot have their findings or determinations reviewed at some next level, right? If nothing else, you can make a timing game where you challenge it long enough that maybe someone else comes in that sees it differently. After all, that sounds like it just happened, right? So I wouldn't concede this point, but you do have to operate in the reality that it is the law for now. But I hope the school system would consider taking a look at that.
Yeah, I fully am going, I'm going to support the transfer request. I'm not saying that I won't.
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting that with a recent change of this magnitude that's going to affect certain students, especially on the heels of us in the space where we're feeding students through COVID, I mean, multiple meals a day, taking them home, it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. And I would imagine that there may be some recourse if we pursued it. So I'm glad to hear that perhaps we are. Thank you.
Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Silkworth. So part of one of my questions was surrounding the school ID. I got to go back to when I go back to the virtual academy presentation. I believe it was Dr. McMahon had explained to the board, and it could be my interpretation coupled with 2 years, 3 years ago. But my understanding was that part of the driving factor of establishing the virtual academy was to allow our hospice home students the opportunity to be in a school community, even if it is virtual, and that the state subsequently did assign a school ID to it.
Yeah.
That remains ongoing. So, and we hit the magic grandfathering of that, thankfully, because the state's since retracting some of their approvals of it. But it seems to me like there is really just something fundamentally wrong here. But I would suggest that I thought our virtual academy, and so if the kids were originally just still tethered to the other school, to tether them into the virtual, if the virtual kids are permitted to receive, because that is a legitimate school. It has everything, and the state recognizes it as a school in accordance with the federal guidelines of what constitutes a school. So I think there is there, and maybe some of those wonderful attorneys that Mr. Burns was referencing, or his colleagues, could pull us all together for a good class action opportunity conversation. Not to, but anyways, so I just wanted to comment that, yeah, there's not any environment or planet or country that I think that is morally acceptable. And that unfortunately is not in law. It gets buried in regulations with USDA. But my second question, Mr. Sansky, is I know there has been a lot of bustle surrounding the ESSER funds as it relates to the state of Maryland. And most of the numbers being reported are aggregate. The last report we received from you was very promising, that we're in a good position where we did our part and we made sure, number one, that it stayed within the ESSER categories. Even when we, resist the urge, when it wasn't directly. And that number two, that we're probably not, if we are of any, it's a very small amount. In other words, our number twos were closed out, and then our number threes are either closing out this year or are already closed. So I just wanted to verify that, because when we talk about transfers and stuff like that, I know it just seems to be a coinciding.
Yep. So
conversation.
ESSER 3, the rule was all funds had to be obligated by Monday. So all of our funds have been obligated by Monday. So I think it's just helpful to have information. So when you get questions, the state of Maryland can only report what districts ask for reimbursement for. So even though we've obligated the funds, right, that doesn't mean they have been expended yet. And so we have another year and a half for those funds to actually be expended, i.e. goods and services to be received. And then at that time, we will ask for the cash reimbursement from MSDE. And then MSD can report the money as, quote, being spent. But I can report to the board that all of our ESSER 3 obligations have been booked by the 9/30 deadline.
Okay. And the U.S. Department of Treasury did set up an audit committee, and we are subject to, but not required by that committee, and if so, like, when does that typically happen? I know we're in good shape, but just for public, because they put the two together with every single story I'm seeing, and I'm going, this is not really how it works. I want our residents to be well informed on that.
And so, and it gets complicated too, because ESSER funding came from Department of Education, whereas other grants that we did receive have come from Treasury.
Yeah.
Right. And so there are two separate processes. The Treasury grants, we have actually until December 31st of 24 to obligate those funds. And so we have a few grants left that with a few dollars in them that will be expended by, or at least obligated by, that 12/31 deadline.
Okay. Thank you so very much. That's really good news, folks, because we're much better positioned than some of our colleagues are for a variety of reasons, including the state and the transitions that they've undergone. So thank you very much, Mr. Stansky, for always being a good model of financial prudence. And good.
Dr. Toby.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm always reminded when we have these presentations how fortunate we are with you and your staff and our finance team. We really are in good hands. I know you went through the list. Could you just remind me one more time how much of this is money that is covering things we asked for that we needed in the budget that we didn't get?
So I'd say, the 132,000 for robotics, which wasn't the full ask, but that's at least partial, right? The HVAC, the $2 million for the HVAC, but everything else is really things that are one-time in nature that we didn't want to request ongoing operating budget support for. And so we're looking to use our fund balance to support that.
Okay, great. So a little north of 2 million.
Yeah.
So I just want to say this. I think, thank you for, making the request for the HVAC. I think this is, it is so short-sighted not to get that funded in our budget, because that's how we use our resources best. As you mentioned, we have seen that. So to our funders, I hope they will look more favorably on these kinds of requests moving forward. And I would say that I truly appreciate the prudence of setting aside or determining that we will use this kind of money for these one-time things. I think that's a very smart way to do this. I'm obviously, like my colleagues, really concerned about the federal school ID number. I understand you're working on the findings that you have. The logic to me sounds like home and hospital teaching is now going to have a federal school ID number. If that's one way to maybe think about this, is that, wherever a student is requires a federal school ID number, but it will be what it will be. And, perhaps Mr. Burns and the swarms of attorneys will, move forward as they do.
Congratulations, Dr. Bedell. It's a beehive now.
Yeah. But I do just want to say, I think this is one of those seemingly, I won't say boring, seemingly less interesting things that comes up in a business meeting that I hope the public is paying attention to. Because we often hear out there about everything from waste, fraud, and abuse to the fact that there's all this quote unquote padding in this building, and, people should be put in the classroom, and we've got all this other stuff that we're somehow putting money into that doesn't directly impact students. But the fact is, as you have noted, Mr. Stansky, modernizing our systems, making sure our HR system has what it needs, for example, to immediately get the information it needs to speed up our processes, all of those things is just one example of what does impact our students very profoundly. And so I just want to highlight that, because it is easy to talk about growing budgets without paying attention to all the pieces that are necessary to make it work and make it work well. So I just thank you for your presentation, Dr. Bedell. Thank you. I think these are wise places to put the money, and I'm just grateful for a staff that is managing all of our financial systems so well. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. So seeing no more lights, we do have a motion, and we have a second. Ms. Howe?
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we're moving on to item 6.04, fiscal year 2025 supplemental capital budget appropriation. Dr. Bedell?
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends approval of the FY 2025 supplemental capital budget appropriation for the security-related upgrades, building system renovations, Old Mill Middle School North sustainability initiatives, and the school bus replacement submissions to the county executive and the county council. Keep in mind, this was discussed in a board workshop 2 weeks ago.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Howe?
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we're moving on to item 7.01, award of contracts. We have any concerns? Seeing none. So before we get to adjournment, I was made aware that today is actually Custodian Appreciation Day. And I am so grateful that I was made aware of that because, you know, we have so many great teachers and staff and employees. When we go out into the schools and we do talk with our custodial staff, many of these people have been in the buildings where they're working for many, many years. Their dedication is just off the charts. And so I want to give an opportunity if there's anybody that would like to make a comment about this, put your light on, because we are not going to let Custodian Appreciation Day go by us. So I don't know what the order was. I'm gonna start with Dr. Tobin. Dr. Tobin.
Thank you so much. So a huge shout out to all our custodians. And let me just say this with regard to custodians in general in schools. As many know, I chair accreditation teams evaluating public charter networks around the country, and I have done for getting on to 15 years. And I spend usually 2 or 3 days in each school I evaluate, interviewing staff, students, family, everyone from top to bottom. I will not leave a building until I have interviewed all the custodians. Because if you really want to know what's going on in a school, you talk to the custodians because they know how things are working. Breakfast Club. No, but they know who those students are. And for many of our students, some of our most vulnerable students, it is often a custodian who is their most trusted adult. And that is so far beyond the technical requirements of the job. And I just want to thank each and every custodian who works for AACPS and let you know that nothing that you do goes unnoticed by me, or I'm sure my colleagues, or any of your students. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. Ms. Corkadell.
Hitting the wrong buttons here the wrong way. Thank you, President Silkworth, for recognizing me. In addition to what Joanna just said, and I share all of those sentiments, I just want to share just a story of what dedication is in a manner that doesn't necessarily breach any student's confidentiality. And this goes back a few years. But we used to do a prevention program in conjunction with the health department, the county executive, and many, many other partners, state's attorney's office, the police, and the schools. And it was not uncommon when we would have these. If they were daytimes, we would have students lined up and extra guidance counselors available and psychologists. But the evening ones, typically, they were handled by ours. And when the ones are done in schools, because the custodial staff had to stay and then clean up afterwards. And there was an individual, gentleman in duress after having heard the panel and wanting to help someone and being involved in a critical situation that involved substance use and addiction. And, that custodial worker did not bat an eye, did not complain, did not moan or be groan, and in fact offered to stay there as long as possible. And that there was absolutely no hurries or no worries. And the same custodial worker also had to be up first thing in the morning to make sure that everything was in order for the next day's business. And that is just one of many, many examples, whether it's the relationships with the students. But folks, these are more than just people who do that. They're integral parts of making sure in so many, many ways of support. And I could never say enough about them, except for I wish we had more people with the hearts and compassion that we do with that team at AACPS. And I think it's an AACPS thing too. I really do think that our culture supports such a thing, and they support us as we support our kids. It's a win-win.
Ms. Schellheim.
Yes, Dr. Tobin already perfectly said what I was going to say. So yes, I appreciate and value all of our staff in our school buildings, and obviously central office, but especially the custodians whose job it is to mop tables, which I have firsthand experience with, to dust in the cafeteria. Let me tell you, it's not more than a little bit messy, and dust mopping floors and making sure our classrooms are clean and making sure that bathrooms are properly stocked. It's often a thankless job, so they can never receive enough of my appreciation for their work, and it does not go unnoticed here. Thanks.
Dr. Bedell.
Yeah, my comments are very similar to what you all are saying. I try to make sure that every time I go to a school, I check on those employees who are, keeping the environment conducive to where our students can learn at a high level. And I think we want to make sure that, again, they feel like they are part of this team. That's been a conversation I've had with their union leader, and that's our commitment. And I know it's the commitment also of this school board that we continue to look at ways to address where they are from a compensation standpoint, so we can keep those solid employees employed here in Anne Arundel County. So again, congratulations to all of the good work that's being done by our custodians across this county.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. I have to tell you, this takes me on a little trip down memory lane. Way back in my Brooklyn Park days. It made me remember Miss Edna. Miss Edna was a little teeny gal. She kind of looked like Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies, but she was the heart and soul of that school. And she was typical of every single one of our custodial staff out there. So we want to make sure that on this day, that all of our custodians know we appreciate everything that you do. And this applause is for all of our custodians. So thank you so much. So as we're moving on, public comments, I understand we have no public comments on non-agenda items this afternoon. And so I do have a couple announcements. Budget Committee meets October 14th, 12 p.m. virtual. And Policy Committee meets November 4th at 3 p.m. virtual. Our next general board meeting is October 16th at 6 p.m. meeting here in the boardroom. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I hear a second.
Second.
Consensus. I think we have it. Good afternoon.